Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Retro Hardware. Today we're taking another one of your requests from the comments section, the 3DO. The 3DO first came out in 1993. This is the first model that was released, the FC1 by Panasonic. This is a Gold Star 3DO controller. It's very similar in layout to the Sega Genesis controller, but also has the left and right shoulder buttons like the Super Nintendo controller. The 3DO company was founded by Trip Hawkins, who also started Electronic Arts. The 3DO company also partnered with several large corporations like AT&T, Time Warner, Panasonic, and LG. What was unique about the 3DO was that they actually licensed out this new console technology to other manufacturers who would then make the console. This is why you saw multiple versions of the 3DO made by Panasonic, Sanyo, and Gold Star. Contrast that with our current generation systems where Sony only makes the PS3, Nintendo only makes the Wii, and Microsoft only makes the Xbox 360. There's been some debate as to what 3DO actually stands for. No one really knows. Some people say it stood for Three-Dimensional Operating System. Others thought it referred to $3 only, which was the relatively low software licensing fee that 3DO charged, compared to Sega and Nintendo, who charged $15 to $20 per game at the time. With the 3DO, because the company that had licensed out the technology had to make a profit, they charged a pretty hefty price when the 3DO launched. It cost a whopping $699, and this was a time where you could get a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis for only $99. Consequently, the 3DO, like a system we featured before, the Neo Geo, gained a reputation of being a rich man's console, or a console for really spoiled kids. Let's talk about hardware. The 3DO is a 32-bit system and its games were on CD-ROM. Like another system we featured before, the TurboGrafx-16, the 3DO only had one controller port. But this wasn't a problem, because if you wanted to play a multiplayer game, all you had to do was daisy chain the controllers. And you could do this with up to 8 controllers. On the side of the console is an expansion port. Panasonic was rumored to be working on an upgrade for the 3DO called the M2, which would upgrade the system to a 64-bit system, but it never came out. Instead, you could plug in a video CD adapter when you could watch video CD movies on your 3DO. Video CD was a format that came out just before DVD. Quality was slightly better than VHS. Let's talk about games. Some of the memorable titles for the 3DO include Crash and Burn, which actually was the pack-in for the 3DO, and it was an excellent showcase for the system's capabilities. Crash and Burn is a futuristic racer in which you drive a car equipped with a gun to battle your opponents. Kinda like Twisted Metal. If you like racing games but weren't really feeling the sci-fi setting, the 3DO was also home to the original Need for Speed game. The 3DO came out about a year before the Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn. Its only competition at the time was the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo and Atari Jaguar. Now, we featured the Atari Jaguar before on our first episode, and the Atari Jaguar was supposedly the world's first 64-bit system. The 3DO was only 32 bits, but honestly, the 3DO games seemed way more next-gen than the Atari Jaguars. The 3DO's games had complex texture map visuals compared to the simple polygons that the Atari Jaguar had. Other memorable titles included Gex, a platformer in which you played a gecko. Gex became the unofficial mascot for the 3DO, and it was kind of like a game in which you played the Geico Insurance Gecko. I guess all geckos look the same. Another interesting title is D, or D's Diner, which is an atmospheric horror game. While the visuals make it seem like it's a survival horror game in the vein of Biohazard or Resident Evil, all the visuals are actually pre-rendered movies, so it's more of an interactive horror movie. A sequel came out for the Sega Dreamcast. The 3DO also had ports of fighting games like Samurai Showdown and Super Street Fighter 2. You also had a bunch of games with celebrities like the Daedalus Encounter with Tia Carrere, Schwing, Wing Commander 3 with Mark Hamill, and Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Despite having a head start over Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn, the 3DO unfortunately was never able to gain a large market share, mainly because of its initial high price tag. It was discontinued in 1996, and like Sega, 3DO moved out of the hardware business and began to focus solely on software, before going bankrupt officially in 2003. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks again for watching. Keep up the comments, let us know what systems you want us to feature. Happy collecting.